Hello again and welcome back. I'm Jared Case, curator of film exhibitions at the Dryden Theater and the George Eastman Museum, with another streaming recommendation for you. And I have got another graduate of the L. Jeffrey Selznick School of Film Preservation with me today to talk about our film. Please welcome Josh Haidet. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Jared, good to see you. And hello to all the Eastman House folks out there.
So how you been doing?
Things have been interesting down here, for the past several months. I guess you could extend that out in the past year and a half or so. I'm in central Mississippi these days, and we just got through a major serious ice storm, not like what you saw in Texas, but it was something. And of course, we're all dealing with the day-to-day life things that everybody has to deal with these days. But we're making it, and things are going well.
So you've moved around a bit. I remember you being from Ohio, and then you came to Rochester for Selznick School.
Yes.
Now you're down in Mississippi. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing down there in Mississippi.
Yeah, originally from Northeast Ohio. Loved my time in Rochester about 2 years, and then came down to Mississippi, where I'm now in public library land. So I'm the executive director of the Mid-Mississippi Regional Library System. We have 5 counties in central Mississippi with 13 branch locations. As the director, I oversee the day-to-day operations of the library, write policy, oversee programming, collection development, that sort of thing. And our system is governed by a 5-member administrative board, but I do the day-to-day, and we all wear a lot of hats. We have about 40 employees. But as is often the case, everybody digs in and gets done what needs to be done. But our goal is to provide we have about 87,000 people here in our 5 counties, and our goal is to provide them with the best library services we can possibly provide and continually adapt to their needs here locally. And of course, we've all been challenged with that here lately, but I think we're adapting well, and hopefully our patrons agree.
So a couple questions, you can tie them in. Remind me of when you graduated from the Selznick School. And the other thing was, I wanted to mention that many of our graduates either have already gotten or go on to get their MLS, their Master of Library Science or Master of Library and Information Science after that. So tell us a little bit about your path from Selznick to the library.
Sure. I did the master's program at University of Rochester after graduating from Selznick. Of course, it's a 2-year program. So that was in 2010, and then in Rochester, University of Rochester, 2011. Afterwards, let's see, it would have been 2012 when I came down here and attended University of Southern Mississippi and got my Master's of Library and Information Science from there. And yeah, it's kind of a natural progression, really. Archives and libraries are in the same boat and family, and I've always loved both types of institutions. Before coming to Rochester, I went to Ohio State and worked at the library there and the rare books and manuscripts department. So I've always loved libraries, love archives, and I think it is a natural progression between the two.
I love that that sort of analogy where we're all in the same boat, where we're trying to move forward with maintaining our legacy, whether it's archival legacy or moving image legacy. Is there anything from your years here at the Selznick School and the University of Rochester you still carry with you in your job?
Oh, sure. I mean, the answer to this question might be a little more abstract than someone who deals with film every day. I don't do that, obviously, but there's a lot of things I learned at the Selznick School in particular that I use all the time. But again, a little bit more abstract. But you think of the teamwork that's involved in doing what you all do, the hard work that's involved, and the thing that I love the most about the Selznick School, and the thing that I still miss, is, and this is how I learn the best, right, is sit down beside somebody who's doing it and then do it, watch them do it and then do it. So that definitely affects how I train people.
Right.
and how we train people in my library system. And, you know, it's just something that instilled in me a work ethic. We were there every day, man. As you know,
Right.
you know, Jared was a wonderful teacher and still is. And you're there 9 to 5 with those folks, and you're punching the clock, man. And you were expected to do what you guys were doing
Mhm.
on certain levels. So, and there's other things as well. I remember one of the tasks at Selznick School that we were given, and you all probably still do this. You gave short clips of films.
Mhm.
And you have to identify the film based on those short clips. And that, of course, reference is a huge part of public library land. And I mean, those skills are very beneficial. Jared used to be a cataloger, and I did quite a bit of cataloging in my early public life. So that certainly helped. So yes, there's all sorts of things that I still use from the Selznick School. Don't get me wrong, there's days where I wish I was sitting at a bench with a real film, but this is a wonderful career, and I use a lot of things that I learned at Selznick School. It was the best year of my academic life for sure. I would not trade it for anything.
That's great. That's a wonderful. We'll put all your pull quotes on the poster for the Selznick School.
Great, yeah, wonderful. Be happy to do so.
So you've stepped outside what we would normally consider sort of the classics that we're showing here at the Dryden for your choice. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the movie you chose?
Yeah, I'll start there where I have stepped outside because, you know, everybody is getting through all of this life these days in their own way. And I know for me, when I sit down and watch a movie now, I've got kids, and I want to have fun and I want to be entertained. Those are my primary goals when I sit down to watch a movie. And people do that different ways, obviously. We're all in different boats when it comes to what kind of movie we like. But I chose for this The Goonies from 1985. And it's a fun movie. And I can sit down and watch it anytime. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to have a good time. And that's why I chose that movie.
It's actually got it's one of those films that really lives in the memory of kids that grew up in the 80s. It was sort of Disney focused in that, you know, these were a bunch of kids that didn't really have parental influence, at least through the plot of the film. You saw their parents, but they had agency themselves, and they were not only on a mission, but they were on a mission to help their families. And it's also directed by Richard Donner, who had done Superman in the past and would go on to do Lethal Weapon a couple of years later, and produced by Steven Spielberg when he was really in his glory days of, you know, touching everything from Batteries Not Included to Poltergeist and influencing it that way. What is your history with that film?
So actually, you know, when I talk about films that make me happy, I have a good time and all that sort of thing, it's a lot of nostalgic films, right? Mm-hmm. So, but this film is not nostalgic for me. I was in my 20s before I saw this movie. Okay. And it was actually, now of course the sets and the characters and just the overall feeling of the film is very nostalgic to me. But I did not see it when I was a kid. And so my brother-in-law was one of his favorite movies. And the movie is almost unavoidable when you're talking in terms of pop culture references. And he would have a quote or whatever, and it just got to the point where I've got to sit down and watch this movie because you know, it keeps coming up. So I watched it. I loved it. It's hard not to. It just has such a pull on folks when they do watch it. The kids in the film give such just honest performances and they have such a, I'm not even sure what the word is, I guess charisma, which is hard to get from kid actors sometimes. But as you mentioned, Richard Donner, helped get those performances out of those kids, and the script written by Chris Columbus, who went on to direct some of the Harry Potter films and that sort of thing. So some big Hollywood heavy hitters for sure were involved in the Goonies, and it's just a good time.
So for all those 20-year-olds out there that, like you, have not seen the film yet, maybe we can give a short synopsis of
Sure.
what we're watching.
Well, let's start here because we are doing recommendations here. Now, I want to say that this is a kids' film. However, this is an 80s kids film.
Yeah.
And there is language in here. There are mature themes. There are dead bodies in this movie. I don't know how many spoilers we want to get to, but I'll prep you the opening scene of the movie where we're at a jail. We walk into the jail to find a gentleman hanging there, apparently has committed suicide, and we find out later that that is a ruse. But there are some mature themes in this film for when you're talking about a kids movie, and a movie with a PG rating.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of kids swearing, and it's not for every kid. But yes, the plot is that we have a group of kids who their homes are about to be foreclosed upon. And it's the evil real estate developers, and they are going to foreclose on the homes, bulldoze them, and make a country club. And so the kids are embarking on what they feel is going to be their last adventure together. They're a group they call themselves the Goonies. They live in what's called the Goondocks of Oregon. And they're wanting to have a good time for their last weekend together. They head up eventually into the attic of the leader of the Goonies, really, Mikey's attic. And they discover a treasure map. And it's a lost pirate treasure map. And there's a couple of motivations for them to go on this journey. But number one is they just, they want to have an adventure. And number two, some of them think, hey, maybe we'll find some treasure and we'll be able to help our parents out. So, adventure ensues afterwards.
It certainly does. And it goes all the way with it. It's a big budget film, definitely, intended for that summer movie theater season.
Sure.
What I'm really surprised about, looking back on it, is it just seems to be like a sort of a cauldron for actors that would go on to pretty impressive careers. You've got Josh Brolin, who recently was in the Avengers movies. You've got Sean Astin, who was so memorable in the Lord of the Rings films. Ki Huy Kwan went on to be I guess he was just coming off of the Indiana Jones movie he was in.
He'd done Temple of Doom the year before, and of course I recognize him from that. And I forget, he's still in Hollywood in some capacity, and I think the actor who played Chunk, Mr. Cohen, what's his first name? Jeff. He's a producer now, I believe, in Hollywood, or some capacity. Some of them are not acting anymore, but still involved in Hollywood. And of course, I did not know this was Josh Brolin's first feature. He was one of the older kids in the film, and I just assumed being in other things, but apparently he had not.
There's great character actors like Joe Pantoliano and Robert Davi, and there was the sort of other girl, the one that was not the pretty one that everyone was after, played by Martha Plimpton. And I just saw her in a film at Sundance called Mass, where she was just fantastic in that. So, it seemed to be the starting point for a lot of long careers, whether in front of or behind the camera.
Sure, absolutely. And Steph, I love the character of Steph because she's kind of she's the grown up, the voice of reason for the group. Hey, we probably shouldn't do that. We should go over here. And she's trying to lead them in the direct way. She's kind of, her and Mikey, we're keeping them on the right path, right? So she plays a wonderful character as well. Yeah.
So there's a lot of memorable sequences in the film. Do you have any favorites that you like from the film?
Well, sure. I mean, as they're going through, you get we mentioned Temple of Doom a minute ago, you get a very Indiana Jones vibe from this, right? So they're going through, there's boulders dropping, there's booby traps, and that this pirate has laid out for those who are pursuing his treasure. And when they find the treasure, which, spoiler alert, they find the treasure, the the pirate ship is there, and the pirate ship is a real pirate ship. They built this thing, and I didn't know that until I started going through this little research for doing this interview. I didn't know that it was a real pirate ship, but they put some serious time and effort into this thing, and filmed sequences on the pirate ship, obviously. And I also found out that after filming was completed, they offered the pirate ship to basically whoever wanted it. Nobody wanted it, and it was demolished. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, man, that is very impressive. And as you mentioned earlier, there was a budget to this thing. It really had it of course was not a Spielberg directed movie, but it had a Spielberg feel, and certainly at that time, maybe like an ET kind of thing, had the same kind of atmosphere and feel around it, where you're dealing with a couple of kids who maybe might be considered misfits, but they all have their quirks and strengths and come together to complete an awesome quest.
Yeah, and for sports fans like you and I, we can also revel in the fact that John Matuzak, famous NFL player, is actually the one playing a One-Eyed Willie under all that makeup. A huge guy.
Playing Sloth, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sloth. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, played Sloth, and I didn't know that, but yeah, he gave a wonderful performance. And Sloth, of course, the lovable grown-up who acts like a kid and performs the heroic acts at the end of the movie, literally pulling his shirt off to reveal his Superman shirt, and that's a little nod to, as you mentioned, Richard Donner and his previous directorial experiences with Superman, and even play the John Williams theme there just briefly as he does that. So that was a pretty cool moment that just works. Everything just works in this movie. If you think about too how it begins, the Fratellis, who we haven't talked about a whole lot, but they're breaking out of jail, and of course they're going to pursue the kids throughout the film, and sort of chase them, and they're after the treasure as well. But we see them breaking out of jail. There's a car chase with police as the credits roll, and the car and the police chase is going past each of the main characters in the film to introduce us to each one of them. And we actually get decent introductions to these kids, and we get an idea of how they live and what their life is like. And so it's not just a rush. Actually, it takes 30 minutes at least probably to get to the actual treasure hunt where they're on that. And in that first 30 minutes, we're introduced to the characters, and there's some fleshing out there. I mean, so it's a well done movie. I just everything just seems to work with it. And I just have a good time watching it, and I think others will as well.
Yeah, I think that is a testament to the writing and directing and editing, in that you have this rhythm that builds tension throughout the film, and you have characters that you care about because you've learned something about them. So by spending time with them, and even though it's efficiently done, I mean, they're constantly running around and yelling and going up and down stairs, but you get a sense of their relationship to each other, their relationship to their parents, and what they have at stake for this ultimate quest that they go on. So the writers, directors, and the editors all did a really good job in sort of keeping that going.
Absolutely. I watched an early review of this film by Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up, thumbs down, folks. And one of their complaints was that the kids would talk over each other. They said, we had a hard time understanding the dialogue. But that was, to me, the point. I mean, you don't need all the dialogue. You need the interaction and how these kids would have actually interacted with each other. And this is what friends did, back in the day. Yeah, they're talking over each other. Yeah, they sassed each other, and the characters, again, you look at Mikey, who's, got the heart of gold, kind of the innocent one of the group, but also the one he's on this quest and this mission. Brand, played by Josh Brolin, has the he's kind of the macho brother, and he's always lifting weights and that sort of thing. And of course, he gets the girl. You have Data, who is a wonderful inventor, always coming up with all these gadgets, and how many times these gadgets saved the crew. As you mentioned, Steph and Andy, Chunk, and Mouth. So let's start with Mouth, because he's the sassy one of the group, always getting in trouble. But Chunk is, he lies. First of all, he lies all the time. And I didn't notice, again, upon this viewing, I noticed that when he does call the police, as they're being pursued by the Fratellis, the police are familiar with him. Said, is this, I think his name's Lawrence. Is this Lawrence? Yes, but well, is this like the time when you were saying this or whatever? And one of the things that they were saying is this like the time where you reported all those preachers who multiplied if you dumped water on them, as an homage, which I think Chris Columbus was involved in that as well. So it's the kids just stole the movie. And of course, it's not really a large cast, right? I mean, there's not a ton of players in this cast. Right. And so it's completely carried by these kids, most of whom were just fresh-faced kids, people who are not familiar with them. But they gave wonderful performances.
Yeah, you can go a couple ways with the analysis of the kids talking over each other. Either, it's a very high-minded Altman influence that they brought into this summer movie, or it's just, Siskel and Ebert had never been in a house with multiple kids, because that's what happens no matter what.
Yeah, maybe they don't have 5 kids hanging around. There's a scene at the beginning where Data flies through the door and knocks the screen out of the door. And, the mom just comes in and says, hey, I think Data's here. And, as you have kids and their destructive power, come to light, maybe Siskel and Ebert did not have that in their lives.
So have you passed this down? Have you showed it to your kids yet, or are they not ready?
So, no, they're not ready. Some of the things I talked about earlier, I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. 6 is way too young. 9's getting there, but not quite. And the words, I think the swearing is more than anything that I don't think. Now, that's an interesting part of the history of this movie as well, because many people, if you didn't see it in the theater, you probably saw it on cable TV. You never saw the beginning part with the guy hanging in the jail. You never heard the words. They were all edited out. And so a lot of people, I think, might be shocked to go back and rewatch the theatrical release of the movie and find that there were a lot of mature things and themes in the film.
Yeah, there was a period from like the mid 70s to mid 80s where there were a lot of films that were released as PG, and they were actually expecting parents to guide their children as opposed to just, seeing that as a seal of approval and sending them off. I call it 70s PG because, I've got films like Smokey and the Bandit or All the President's Men, which have more mature themes and language and partial nudity that you wouldn't expect to see in a PG film now. But it's definitely an interesting period before that PG-13 came in and they sort of shoved everything in that.
Yeah, because again, there's the kids are being shot at by these criminals. At one point, a knife is pulled on one of the kids. And you think about something like E.T. There's bad language in E.T. Go back and watch E.T. There's some things in there that you're not going to watch. You want your 9 or 10-year-old to be saying. Another one that pops into my brain, we just watched this a few weeks ago, Uncle Buck with John Candy. It's a PG movie, and it's hilarious, but it's not a PG movie.
Yeah, movies about families are not necessarily for families.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But this is a film too that yes, if your kids are ready for this kind of thing, they're going to have a good time with it. But I think you as an adult, if you enjoy movies that have that 80s vibe and feel, you're going to have fun with this movie as well, and you're going to enjoy it.
And if you do want to watch it immediately after watching our conversation here, you can go to HBO Max. It's now streaming on there. But If not, it's available for rental on your usual places, on your Amazon and your YouTube and your Apple stores. And or you've got
I'm going to promote this because this is a wonderful. This is available through DVD or Blu-ray. It is a free. This is available right now at your Mid-Mississippi Regional Library. But it's The Goonies, Gremlins 1 and 2. I mean, this is a wonderful purchase. You should really add this to your collection.
And that's our spotlight for purchasing films as opposed to renting them from the library.
Absolutely. Well, we would love to rent it to you from the library as well.
Well, it's wonderful to have talked to you across one time zone here. It's great to see you again, but if you've got a couple of minutes, I have a little questionnaire that I like to do with the people that I have conversations with.
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right, so this is all about getting people excited about getting back to the theater. So I want to know, what is your first cinematic memory?
My goodness. Okay. You know, this can't be my first, but it was one of the first ones that popped into my brain. I saw Forrest Gump at a college cinema in Alliance, Ohio, my hometown. And that's a long film. I think it's bordering on 3 hours if it's not over 3 hours. And it popped into my head immediately because that was a very uncomfortable 3 hours watching that movie in that theater. It was a very bare bones theater and they didn't have very comfortable seats. But I enjoyed the film. But yeah, that was an early one. And what did that, we're talking
94.
94, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously I'd seen movies before that, but that one just popped into my brain immediately.
Was there a movie theater that you went to on a regular basis as you were growing up, someplace that you have fond memories of?
Oh, absolutely. So we had the prototypical fantastic 80s mall in Alliance, Ohio that is still there. They're talking about knocking it down. There's like 3 stores in it, but it's still there, and they had what was called and still is operational, the Carnation Cinema. And you could go there for a couple of bucks and see a film, and it was wonderful. It's, you know, it wasn't the big, you know, giant Cineplex theater experience, but it was right there in my hometown, and we went to it a lot and made extensive use of it. And right next door was a pizza place that was a great pizza place. So yes, I have very fond memories of both that mall and that cinema. Absolutely.
A great pizza place for being close to the movie theater.
Absolutely. I mean, literally right next door to the movie theater.
Yeah. What is your favorite sensory experience about going to the cinema?
I like experiencing it with others. And there's just something about the cheering, the jeering. Perhaps when it's a wonderful movie, people are standing up and clapping. You know, there's just, you can't get that at home. And I really miss that. And of course, watching films at the Dryden, you're watching with an educated movie audience. They know the films, they know the actors, they know quality for the most part. And, you know, but there's a benefit to that. There's also a benefit just to seeing how does a regular movie-going audience react to this movie today. And so that's really what I like about going to films, probably the best.
Yeah, that's an integral part of the cinematic experience, and I always say it's immersive, it is communal, and it is immediate. Right. So that communal part is part of those 3 aspects.
And if you do it right now, how many places can you go these days and not be interrupted by phones or whatever it is? But a film, and if they do it right, and they don't let you get on your phone during the film, it's one of those places where you can just go and you can be with your family or with your friends and with the film. And that is valuable these days. It really is.
Right.
We should all sit down and think about how valuable that time is now. because we don't get a lot of it. You can sit at home and watch it, but I guarantee your phone's sitting right next to you, or your sister's phone, or your friend's phone, or whoever it is. And so I do value that time away from technology, as it were.
Yeah, and I suppose you could have that sort of experience at home, but you'd have to like force it on your family. It's like, get up and applaud right now. This is the time.
Right. Everybody put your phone in the basket. And then, but it's not the same, although I will say that you can make your home viewing experience what you want. So my home viewing experience is often a CRT TV, a Zenith CRT, and a Zenith VCR. And because I like watching those movies on VHS, how I grew up watching them. And I'm telling you, I would rather see, if I can't see Star Wars in 70 or 35, for example, I want to see it on VHS because the rest of it doesn't look right to me. I grew up watching it on VHS, and it looks right on VHS to me, and it feels right on VHS to me. And I'm probably in the vast minority on that one, but that's my home theater setup.
Yeah, I've certainly still got films on VHS, and sometimes it's just I haven't replaced it, but sometimes they have cuts on there that don't exist on DVD or Blu-ray.
I mean, go back to Star Wars, which I mentioned a minute ago. You can't find the quote original release on DVD very easily, but on VHS, it's fairly easy to find. So if you want to watch the Star Wars you remember watching in the theater, you almost have to turn to VHS, and of course the aspect ratio isn't correct and all that. But again, that didn't bother me when I was 10 years old watching it. I thought it was wonderful.
It's another aspect of archiving that we'll have to look into.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So where do you sit when you go to the cinema?
Oh, good question. I try a middle seat. I want to be eye level, in the middle, if at all possible. That's where I like to sit. Too high, you're looking down. Too low, you're looking up. And right in the middle is where I like to sit. Now, at the Dryden, I think probably this happened with a lot of students, and maybe with you. Everybody had their seat, right? This is where I'm going, and so it was about halfway down. And I also like the balcony at the Dryden as well. It was a wonderful experience up there watching a movie.
Okay, one more question, less experience related.
Okay.
While we're all at home, and especially since you work at a library, so I'm sure you have just dozens off the top of your head. Can you recommend a book that people can read while they're sitting home, whether it has to do with archiving or film history, The Goonies specifically?
Okay, I don't have a book with The Goonies specifically. Right now I'm reading Ready Player 2, which we're on Spielberg, so that kind of works, right? So Spielberg, of course, made a film out of Ready Player One, the original book in this, what's going to be a trilogy by Ernest Cline. And Spielberg directed, and Cline was heavily involved in the making of, what was this, maybe 2-3 years ago now?
Yeah.
Ready Player One, the film.
2019, maybe 2018.
Right. Decent success, I think. I was a fan of the book, so I would have liked a few more of the book elements to be in the film. But anyway, Ready Player Two is what I'm reading now, and I'm having a good time with it so far. If you like Ready Player One, it's basically more of the same.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for sitting down with us and taking time to tell us about what you're doing and remind us that Goonies is still out there and it's a good time to watch. So
thank you for having me, Jared, and everybody hang in there and have some of these experiences. Have fun. There's ways to do it out there, and I know we're all going through a tough time, but have a good time, sit down, relax, and watch a fun movie like The Goonies. Do it for yourself.
And I hope we can get together and see each other face to face at some point in time instead of just over the screen. So when we open back up, you're always welcome to come in and see a movie here.
Thank you. I'd love to come back to the Dryden. Wonderful memories there at the George Eastman House. And hello to everybody at Eastman House. I miss you guys.
I'm going out to lunch with Anthony right now, so
Okay, well, tell Anthony I say hello.
will
He
do.
was the one that gave me those film clips, by the way.
He sure is.
Yeah, he helped me through the film clips, but that was a fun time.
All right, again, thank you so much, Josh, and we will see you later down the road.
Thanks, Jared.